Hi, how are you?
Oh, good.
This week, we're still talking about fires. The heat, of course, is a huge story this week. We set a record the other day on 110-degree heat, and that's affected, of course, everybody in the valley and the firefighters as well. We were able to talk to the National Guard this week in Boonville, and the smoke is still a problem. Air quality continues to give us updates on that, and those are things that we can certainly talk to the reporters about. I wanted to let your viewers know that, you know, we talked about meningitis the last time we were here, and I did talk to the health department shortly thereafter, and their July 2nd marker date went by, and they had no more cases, and they said they had called around to neighboring counties, and there was nothing reported. So apparently that turned out to be an isolated incident, and thank goodness for that. So also we have our, you guys met the last time, our stringer this summer, Sarah House, who isn't here today, but she's working on an interesting story on the level of business that our local hotels and restaurants are doing because all the firefighters are in town. So that's going to be an interesting story. And I think probably the best thing to do would be go talk to our reporters about the stories they're covering this week, have been covering, and some of the things they're working on. Ben, do you have a minute?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit today about what you saw at the National Guard site in Boonville.
It's interesting is they've basically got a giant city set up there to house all these people. I think there's 200 some of them out there. They're broken up into it's task force acts. The Army likes to name things, and each is broken into an axe team, and they're out there in their firefighting gear. They're all fairly enthusiastic, ready to go out.
What kind of training are they doing?
They spent 2 days on the coast. Actually, sorry, not on the coast, on the Table Mountain fire, which is contained but not extinguished. Learning how to use McLeods, which are sort of a combination rake and pickaxe tool that you use to dig fire lines. And they spent 2 days in classroom training before that, learning how fires behave, what to look for, when, for instance, to know when that fire is going to come over the hill and you should leave. And they're all with CAL FIRE captains who, of course, can tell them what to do.
What's their reaction been? I mean, they're not used to fighting fires. How do they feel about it?
They're very pleased, actually. I think a lot of them have just come back from Iraq or have spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan and are happy to actually be coming back to work for California and do something in California, which is what a lot of them sort of signed up for, is what they tell me.
Yeah.
They say that they're used to this. It's, you know, they're not used to working on fires, but they work on floods and they work on mudslides, and it's all difficult, dirty, dangerous work.
Yeah.
Although the heat apparently is not fun for some of them.
Yeah, yeah. What about, talk a little bit about the cleanup that's going to need to take place when hopefully all of this is extinguished.
Well, once all the fires are out, they still have, California law says you still have to go back and fix things. Ash from all these burned trees is going to end up in the streams, and any of those fire lines that got dug up are going to have to be replaced, because otherwise all of that silt's going to run into the streams and cause problems for fish. And I've heard people who say, I've talked to CAL FIRE guys who say they're going to be August or September, they'll still have crews here working on cleanup. It's just going to take an incredible amount of time.
Yeah. Let's talk to our photographer, who we haven't talked to before, but is of course out on these stories along with everyone else. This is our chief photographer, Sarah Baldick. Talk a little bit about what you saw at the airport this morning. You guys went out there to see the C-30 or C-130, is it?
I think it's a D-17. What was it again, Ben?
C-130.
C-130.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went out and saw that, and we saw it take off. It's a pretty big plane. So.
Who does that belong to? Does that the National Guard, the Air Force?
Yeah.
And what is it there for, Ben?
They were trading off crews. We've got several Black Hawk helicopters from the Air Force that are doing fire protection in the county right now, and those crews can only work for 6 days. After that, they have to have time off. So they fly the C-130 in. Somebody who's been on the crew for 6 days gets off. Another crew gets off the plane and takes over that Black Hawk. And they'll be actually flying in and out of the Ukiah airport for several more days, trading crews in and out as people go off the lines.
Okay. So Sarah, what about did you get a chance to have a look at a helicopter? Or?
Yeah, I went out the other day and saw the Blackhawks that are out there, and they're spray painted with the CDF numbers on them so they can be recognized in the smoke. And they're huge, and they're awesome. I really want to
get up and run
so bad, but I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately, there's too many restrictions.
Oh, yeah.
But they're really cool to shoot.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you have faced in terms of shooting this event?
The whole fire event in general?
Yeah.
Well, as far as lighting, the smoke has been a factor. The light reflects in the smoke, so it's hard to get a good shot sometimes. It's really been hard to get out there and get really close to the fires because they've been so remote.
Yeah.
So it's been a challenge. There's a lot of driving, a lot of like hiking out to places, and then there's like nothing even going on. A little bit of, I don't want to say misinformation, but just because a lot of the people don't know the terrain. So, you know, you get sent to some place where there isn't actually a fire when they're, you know, and the fire happened to be somewhere else, or it's like 3 miles hiking down a road, and that's just not possible for me to really get out there and do that with our deadline and everything.
Right.
So it was a challenge at first, but I got really lucky and I got to go out on some fires with Peter Armstrong, who's a CDF photographer, and also with some CDF PIOs, Public Information Officer. And so I got to go out on some fire lines, see some back burns, and get some shots that I really like.
Good, good. We want to take a minute and talk to Rob today also because he has been doing the stories on heat and smoke. And I know that the people in the valley are still very concerned about the health levels for smoke. Did we get an air quality report today yet?
I haven't seen the one for today, but they only generally last for 24 hours, although they keep kind of doing the same ones over and over again. It's not really much changed.
So they don't give you any new information, they just keep saying, yeah, the alert continues.
Yeah, the only one I've seen lasted longer than 24 hours was over a weekend, and it like lasted for 2 or 3 days, but they only do it like day per day, even though it obviously still bad, but they want to make sure that they don't give like a wrong reading, because they do a reading every morning at 8 a.m. and then they use that to determine what they also use visibility. How far you can see determines how they say if you're sensitive to this, you can go out or can't. So.
Okay. So right now it's mostly about people who are generally sensitive?
Yeah, if you have asthma, respiratory problems. Also the masks apparently don't help at all unless you've got ones that are rated for smoke and and if you have one that's just like a cotton, painter's mask, it's doing no good really. I mean, it's just making you feel better maybe if you don't know that it's not working. But,
yeah, I think I read maybe in one of your stories that they can actually be bad for you.
Well, if you have a respiratory problem, the way Marvin Trotter, the public health doctor, he said that you got a problem with your breathing, putting something in front of your face where you can't get air in is probably not the best idea for you anyway. So.
Yeah. And of course, the other big story this week was heat. So we broke a record?
We broke a record that was 98 years old on Wednesday. And then I don't know if we broke it yesterday because they said the temperature was still climbing as of like 4:30 p.m. yesterday, and it was only 2 degrees away from breaking the previous record, which was set in 2002. And the one for today is also set in 2002. So. Okay.
Yeah. Do we have time? A minute to talk to Sarah? Oh, she left. Where did she go? Sarah was working on the story about the restaurants, and apparently the hotels and restaurants are really. Obviously full. I know on Thursday in my 7 o'clock meeting at Shots, I walked in and the place was full of firefighters who got a round of applause on their way out the door, by the way. And the hotels are telling us they're full, which is a great thing for them in the middle of summer, a hot summer in Ukiah. There is apparently the firefighters are allowed to go to local restaurants, some on an approved list in terms of their budget, but that part of it has turned out to be a plus for some of the local businesses. So that's what we're doing here at the Ukiah Daily Journal this week, and we thank you again for coming down and checking it out.